Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see here on our channel, my social media, or our website. Reach out to me directly, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. Today, we are discussing a 37mm white gold Roger Dubuis Sympathie Perpetual Calendar, technically known as the Sympathie 37 Perpetual Calendar. It represents the first generation of the much-loved Sympathie case design with the shaped sapphire. Now, the timepiece that you see here on my desk is perhaps one of the most beloved and sought early examples of independent horology, created by a company then known as Sogem in its earliest days. The case shape itself was coined by a valet de jeu artisan. The complication is by Mr. Dubuis himself. The underlying mechanism, a heritage movement from Breguet, and of course the overall impact, remarkably strong. A watch retailed in 2000, it has immense character, and many say this is the way Roger Dubuis still should be. I'm not going to dispute the sentiment. 37 millimeters in diameter by 9.7 millimeters thick by 47.7 millimeters lug to lug by 20 millimeters between the lugs. You get a good sense of the watch on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. Comfortable, flat, easily fitting underneath the cuff. It has a tremendous assured strength about it thanks to the masculinity of the hard angles, the sharpness of the creases, and of course the strength of those lugs, which impart as much character as the much loved sapphire itself. I can recommend it for wrists as small as 13.5 centimeters circumference. Now let's take a look at the hardware and the software. We have a hand-cut alligator leather strap, medium rectangular scale, semi-gloss, monotone stitch, folded edge. You can see calfskin on the underside, a new strap, and a matching buckle. White gold like the watch itself. You can see it's anything but a generic design, as Dubuis styled even the buckle to match the case. The case, as I mentioned, is strong with sharp creases and angles, a few flowing sensuous curves, and as you can see, it's quite subtle with the use of a vertical satin rather than the more common longitudinal. The lugs are sharply broken out from the case band, and as you can see, they're polished on their hoods, satin on their sides. They feature polished cabochon style screws, and then the bezel itself has a sort of double-stepped profile with that lovely fluid form. The whole thing appears to have been drawn out from molten metal and then flash frozen. Now, there is a second generation Sympathie, and that features the same shape about the case, but a circular sapphire and a circular inner bezel, making it cheaper to assemble and quicker to build, but immensely less charming and, frankly, less rare. This is a timepiece that is both scarce and exquisite, and as you can see, it is a perpetual calendar with a distinctive sort of cream lacquer dial. A very similar watch was worn by Mr. Dubuis as his own personal watch. He wore a Sympathie 37 perpetual calendar right up to the end. It was the watch he chose for himself from across his career, which spanned the 1950s through the 2010s. So this is an important watch to the Dubuis brand. You'll also appreciate the fact that the appliques are white gold and polished, both the Arabic numerals and the indices. There's a lovely scale outboard, and if you trace it carefully, you can see that it mentions Bulletin d'Observatoire up at 12 o'clock. The watch is indeed a Besancon French observatory chronometer, meeting the same standards as the COSC. The key difference is that it is tested as a cased-up watch, not a bare movement as with the COSC. So it is a chronometer. It is also Geneva Hallmark, and we'll talk about that in a moment. We have a moon phase with an adjustment interval, a correction interval, that is, of 122 years. We have a radial date indicator. We have a leap year indicator. We have the day. We have the month. And when you turn it all over, we have caliber RD 5739, based on the Longines L990, also known as the Breguet 8815. It is a twin mainspring barrel, 44-hour power reserve, unidirectional automatic winding, 25 joule ultra thin movement. As you can see, it's been finished to a higher standard with the Poinçon de Genève, so it is both Poinçon de Genève and a chronometer. It beats away at 28,800 vibrations per hour, and of course with the twin barrels you have a nice even torque release from maximum wind to minimum wind. That's the purpose of two barrels. It doesn't run too fast when fully wound, nor does it lose too much amplitude when almost discharged. The 5-position adjustment is exceptional, and many of these watches were adjusted prior to the chronometer test by Roger Dubuis himself. You could see in improving the movement for this application, Dubuis added a lovely filigree-style rose gold logo on the rotor, immaculate Côte de Genève linear across both the rotor and the bridges, and you can see that to good effect. There is engine turn perlage on the base plate. All screw heads are black polished with chamfered circumference and slots. Black polish is rendered on both the swan's neck regulator and the cap for the stud of the hairspring. Appreciate that the anglage is broad and bright, mirrored and hand-rounded, not a machined bevel, and there is satination on all of the wheels themselves, so it is a beautiful movement. The watch, 30 meters water resistant, so it's not an aquatic sports watch, but it is one of the most sought early examples of independent horology from one of the pioneers in the space. This is from the era when Dubuis himself still had a very strong hand in the business, using the movement developed by Longines, his original employer, back in the 1970s, the complication developed by himself and Jean-Marc Viderect of Agenordre in the 80s for Harry Winston, and of course the uncompromising standard that Roger Dubuis brought over from Patek Philippe. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com to own this circa Y2K first generation Sympathie.